What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the 182 News Podcast. This is your host, poppincurbs, and this is the season 4 finale, the grand finale, folks. We made it through another season. It is a bloody miracle. It honestly trips me out how long I've been doing this thing. I just started this from scratch, just wanting to talk about my favorite band in the world. Here we are, 4 seasons in the books, and just when I think I can't come up with any more ideas, we somehow find a way to keep it going. So thank you, first and foremost, for listening. We just had a really gnarly 3-episode stretch that I'm pretty proud of. I just thought it was some fascinating insight from the guests that I had on. I'm going to touch base on that. And also, the last one that I had just talking by myself was the day the album dropped. And it was basically just my initial thoughts surrounding the new album, just very first thoughts that popped in my head listening to it in full. So I do want to expand on that just a little bit, but we have a ton of stuff to get through today. Let's start here with just kind of the year recap. So again, this season is in the books. I want to thank you all for listening, for real. Like, I really, really appreciate it. It trips me out to see the download numbers, to see the countries. I want to say there was like 95 countries reached last year for this podcast, which is insane. It honestly blows me away. And I think by now you all should know that I don't do this for the money. I do it for fun. It's a hobby, and it's just out of passion for this band and sharing rad stories and history and just cool, fun facts. And as long as it's fun, I'm going to keep it going. So my gut says we'll be back for season 5. I got to go talk to the marketing department. I got to talk to finance. We'll see how it goes, but I think we'll be back. Pretty sure we'll be back. So we'll touch base hopefully in January at some point. My goal last year was to grow the YouTube channel a little bit. So traditionally, I had just been throwing up the podcast in an audio form on YouTube, and a lot of folks check it out there. But I wanted to really start building on that, try to integrate some video components, do little fun videos or fun facts or whatever, just basic history stuff. And I feel like I have grown quite a bit there. So thank you for folks who subscribed over there. I've been trying to put up either reaction videos or just really cool little history tidbits, as well as when I do interviews, I want to get up little excerpts of or highlights of particular sections or subjects. So that's one of the things that folks had been asking me about for a long, long time is, dude, put up the full video interview. And a lot of times it sounds great on paper, but as a little bit of insight, sometimes the audio conversations, they just don't really translate well into video. I mean, I try to go back. If you've subscribed over there, you've seen I've been going back and finding old clips of my interviews and rewatching them and trying to find stuff that I can clip out for little sections. And sometimes it's great. Sometimes there's issues you may not even think about, like there's lag or the audio and the video isn't synced properly, or on some of these, I actually have to edit quite a bit, and you don't necessarily hear that in an audio interview, but when it's video and you have to chop it up, just doesn't translate particularly well. So believe me, I hear you. I wish it was that easy to where every single time I did something, I could just pop it into iMovie or whatever and it would be ready to roll. But a lot of that stuff just doesn't translate well, or there's issues with it. And most importantly, it just takes a shit ton of time that I do not have. I mean, as far as just a little bit of insight into the podcast goes, when I get an audio interview up, I edit it, I record it, I make graphics for it, I proof listen to those usually 2 to 3 times just because I'm anal about it and I want to make sure nothing's crazy on it, or there's just not any huge dead air or big gaps or coughing, sneezing. I have to cut out my chihuahuas going fucking crazy. So, if you have an interview like my last one that was 2 hours, by the time I edit that puppy and listen to it 2, 3 times, you're talking 10 hours just of listening to the audio component before, releasing it officially. So then to turn around and have to do that On video, it's just very, very, very time consuming. And at this point, my YouTube page isn't that big, growing nonetheless, but at this point, it's just been really tough, to find the time to do that. So I'm trying to, I think for this season, I will once again try to build on the YouTube side of things because I do have fun there. And I like doing some of the stuff that translates better on video, when I can show off some of the new little to the stars toy guitars or the Funko Pops or whatever. Some of that stuff obviously translates better on video. And from a storytelling aspect, it's also cool to have visuals on that side of things as well. But for the meantime, I'm trying really hard to get little highlight clips up, and I know those piss some people off as well, but here's the thing. I'm kind of in this in the long run as far as historical documentation. So my thought process is if somebody's digging into one more time 5 years from now, they're not necessarily going to Google Aaron Rubin interview and go to 1 hour, 13 minute and 45-second mark to hear about Terrified. So to me, it makes more sense to clip that out, Aaron Rubin on Terrified. That way, if you Google Terrified in the future, that'll pop up on your feed and you'll be able to get a quick little highlight there. So I know some folks like that, some folks hate that. I'm trying to find a nice little middle ground where I can appease both sides of folks who want short clips, want long clips, as well as just what's genuinely feasible on my side. So we're getting there. I'm trying to do cool shit there. And as always on all of this stuff, I really appreciate the feedback. I really do this out of passion, and it's because of you all and the Blink fan base and just chatting with you all that I continue to do this. So, thank you for those who watch, listen, reach out. I really, really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, and it's something that honestly, I need a creative outlet. And this is something that for me, for the past 4 seasons has been great. Now, it probably drives my wife nuts. I should probably spend more time with my family as opposed to documenting Blink 182. But, it's a hobby and I really appreciate it. Now, one of the things that I mentioned this time of year, because I get asked it quite a bit, for those of you who want to support the podcast, the best way to do it is to share it. So, a lot of this stuff, especially some of these last conversations I've had, there's breaking news on this stuff, like mysteries solved. And the best way is to share it, throw it in your Instagram story or send it to a friend or whatever, a Blink fan. To me, that's what matters the most is just sharing it with other fans and just kind of growing organically. For those of you who want to support me in another way, I don't have ads on the podcast. I decided a long time ago I don't want to go that route. I don't have a Patreon. I decided a long time ago I don't want to go that route because I don't want to feel like I need to do something or I owe people that. And this is your good hard-earned money. Please support other things. um, that being said, I know some folks are very passionate about, supporting the podcast or at minimum helping with hosting fees or whatever. So this time of year, what I do is I will drop in my little Twitch tip jar. I think what it's called. It'll be in the description of the episode. And if you want to buy me a Coke or a pack of Sprees or Runts or a good old Mountain Dew Code Red or something, click on that link and you can donate whatever you want. Anything that goes into that will go towards hosting fees for the podcast. I did have to buy a new MacBook Pro to continue the podcast, which really pissed me off. Side note there, I was in the middle of editing one of the interviews and I had it 90% edited. Okay. On my MacBook, I use GarageBand. It's just so simple. And the next morning, I had a little bit of time before work to try and get that finished off, and I opened it up, and GarageBand wouldn't open. My MacBook had updated the OS overnight, and my GarageBand was no longer compatible. And long story short, I was just fucked. I had to go buy a new MacBook. I couldn't downgrade, couldn't find a version of GarageBand that worked, so I had to go out to Best Buy and buy a new MacBook just for GarageBand. That's the only thing I use on this thing. So anyways, if you want to help with overhead costs or just buy me a fancy IPA, because of, the time that I put into this and you enjoy it and want to support it, go to that link, donate whatever you'd like. and I really appreciate that. I was watching a pretty popular podcast the other day on YouTube, and I won't name it because I don't want to come across as a hater because they're far more successful and probably rich than me. I'm not rich at all. But I was watching it, and in the middle of when they were getting ready to answer something cool, the host all of a sudden switched gears and tried to sell me boner pills. And I was thinking, man, I don't know how much he's getting for this product placement or to cut away from this, but I don't think I could ever do that. I don't think I could just stop this right now and say, do you have problems getting boners? Try this right now. Okay. And then just transition right back to my shitty Blink 182 podcast. It's crazy, but for those of you who are in marketing or know how podcasts and ads and all of that revenue works, that's what you got to do to be successful in that realm. And that's why I'm unsuccessful in that realm. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to sell anybody boner pills. I don't want to sell anybody some shitty products I don't want. Only because they're giving me like 20 or 50 bucks or something. It's just not worth it to me. So, anyways, this is the one time of the year. Click the link, support the pod. Okay. Things we need to hit on today. I'm going to touch base quickly on the last two conversations. I want to eventually get to one more time. There's so much stuff we need to talk about. I don't even know how long this one's going to last. We've got to hit on the bonus tracks. I want to hit on really, I hate to call it a honeymoon period because for me, the honeymoon period of a new Blink album is typically years. It's typically until the next one comes out that I'm listening to it. But I do want to hit on kind of the tracks that have risen to the top for me. Some of the things that have caught my ears and eyes as I've been listening to this for almost 2 months, I guess at this point. So I do want to hit on one more time in detail, as well as just some rad things from Blinkland as far as merch and cool shit that's happened in the past 2 months since we've had a formal chat. So to kick things off, I want to hit on that Rob Cakeley interview just a little bit because that was killer. And honestly, when it comes to early Blink conversations and going back in history, the earliest that we had had really was Rick DeVoe. So you're talking late 94, you're talking 95. And then, we've had tons of conversations with Davy Jones, who was around during that time period starting in 95. So we've had some great insight into the quote unquote early days of Blink. But there were even earlier days that there's not a lot of folks around to speak about that side of things. So when I was able to have Rob on the podcast, who met Tom in 1993 and kind of helped guide Tom towards making that first promo kit and kind of pushing them on, look, you got to get a CD, and some of the fascinating insight that he was able to share with us was just incredible. So very appreciative of Rob coming on. I did get some video clips up on the YouTube page of that first Blink promo pack. I mean, that thing was insane. This is never before seen stuff. Some of the earliest insights into Blink that you can find online at all. Some of those photos were just unreal. There was a very early Blink Alice in Wonderland inspired logo that no one had ever seen. There was an early Scott Rayner drawing version that no one had ever seen, as well as there was a photograph in that promo pack that is, in my opinion, um, basically May 1993-ish. So it is one of, if not the earliest photo of Blink as a band. And I know, the band started August 1992. Some of those photos in Anne's book, in Scott's bedroom were, probably right around that time period, a little bit earlier, but most of those are just Mark or just Mark and Tom, not the full band. So that black and white photo in and of itself that was in that promo pack, I mean, my jaw just hit the floor when I saw that. And I did share those on the podcast page. Some of this stuff, and I hate to bitch about some of this stuff, but stories like this and cool shit like that, I work really hard and a lot of time goes into bringing out these stories and creating this content and sharing it with you all. So I know people yell at me about watermarking stuff, but when I've kind of worked, fairly hard in this shitty little hobby, to bring this stuff out, I'm going to watermark it. I don't want 20 fan pages is just taking it and not crediting me or tagging me. That's one thing I've never understood about a lot of Blink fan pages is they don't credit other pages. I don't know why. It bums me out. If I'm going to post something, I will gladly tag you, give everybody all the credit in the world. But for those of us who are trying to kind of create content or bring out history and stuff like that, it's important to kind of give props or credit where credit is due. And so I did put some watermarks on those, and right away, um, I think I learned a lesson that it doesn't even fucking matter because pages are just going to steal it or whatever. So right away, I saw that photo was stolen, uh, posted on other pages, no credit, no context, nothing. One even went super far in removing some of the splatters that I had hidden on there. So I guess it gets to a point where it's like you just got to tip your cap. Like people are just going to take it and it doesn't even fucking matter. It's out there. But I will note that is likely fly swatter era. So mid 1993 is where I date that at. It's incredible. I actually own that photo now, so I have that original, and it's just killer. So I really hope you enjoyed the storytelling and some of the stuff that we were able to bring out and share. And that was because of Rob, not me. Rob was super rad. We had an incredible conversation. And I was very, very appreciative for him stumbling across the YouTube page, reaching out to me, and then being willing to share all of that stuff that I could then turn around and share with you all. So that was one I'm very proud of that one. A lot of work goes into that stuff. And I got some great feedback on that. So I do think folks really enjoyed that. I thought it was fascinating. He hit on that Punk Poets DVD and how it was unauthorized. And that's something that I didn't know that side of things. And he was really wanting to kind of get that off his chest. He held on to that for 20 years at this point, where it really bummed him out that they felt duped. They thought this was something for the band, and ultimately it was unauthorized DVD and something that he's not particularly proud or would have signed off on if he would have known that. So I thought that was cool. That was very important for him to speak about that on this platform. And just, fun little facts that you wouldn't have known if he wouldn't have came on and shared that story. So check that one out if you haven't. Literally some of the earliest insights into Blink that you can find. I mean, just killer. It's going to be tough to beat that. I don't know if we're going to beat that unless some of the either early friends of the band, 92, 93, or, the band themselves come on, which I don't know if that'll end up ever happening or not. After that, we got Aaron Rubin on the podcast. So this one just fucking blew me away. And I'm sure you could probably tell during the interview. I mean, I was just so stoked to have that type of conversation with somebody who was that hands-on. I mean, when it comes to working with Tom, basically at this point, I don't think there's anybody else on the planet who has been that close to Tom and then has worked with him for that long on both sides of things. Even, I'm thinking about this right now, even Critter, Jerry Finn, I mean, RIP. They did not have 10 plus years with Tom, 11 years with Tom. So really killer insight about as gnarly as it's going to get when it comes to the Angels and Airwaves side of things, as well as the Blink side of things. So I was so appreciative of Aaron taking the time to come on the podcast. We spoke for 2 hours. That is a long conversation. And believe me, there was stuff I wanted to hit on. I wanted to hit on the bonus tracks. I wanted to hit on Monsters of California. I wanted to hit on the upcoming Angels and Airwaves live album. And there just wasn't time. If you have a 2 hour conversation with somebody, you got to start getting them out of there a little bit closer to that hour and 45 minute, 2 hour mark. But that was one that I was just stoked to share it with you all. It's one thing for me to have some of these stories and side conversations or whatever, but to me, it's all about sharing these with the Blink fans and Blink community. So to be able to go track by track with somebody who literally engineered, co-produced, co-wrote, I mean, that is to date probably the most in-depth deep dive into that new album as you're going to find on the internet. So that was a killer episode. I think it's already shattered records on podcast downloads. Um, I really hope you enjoyed that one. I got a ton of positive feedback on that. So thank you for checking that out. And most importantly, thank you to Aaron for taking the time to come on there and trust me to not, TMZ the shit out of it or clickbait it or whatever. This is it's just really rad to be able to share that side of things with all of you. I can't say it enough. It's just really fucking rad. So, thank you, Aaron, for coming on the podcast. Definitely check that one out if for some reason you haven't. I mean, I think this is one that will live on for a long time when folks, go back and look. I mean, I can't imagine if there was a Cheshire Cat deep dive by the engineer or co-producer back in the day. People be listening to that to this day. So I'm gonna hit on some of the stuff he brought up when I get into the One More Time album a little bit deeper later on. Um, but needless to say, that was a fucking rad one, and it's gonna be tough to beat, to be honest. I keep setting the bar too high on some of these podcasts. I'm like, shit, how am I supposed to beat that? Like, literally, how can I beat that without getting Mark, Tom, Travis, um, Thrasher, like some of these other cats who helped with the album? It's just, it'd be tough. Okay, let's get into some of the stuff that has happened outside of the podcast that we haven't touched base on. Um, After the album dropped, Blink did an autograph signing. And this is one that I'll tell you what, it's a good thing there wasn't too much of a heads up on that because I would have dropped all my shit and just flown out there, got some stuff signed. You know me, biggest Blink autograph nerd in the world. And to me, it was very special that these were signed right around release date. To me, to me, when it comes to autographs, part of what I really like about them is it's a timestamp. So there's a little bit of history around it, and for me, having a signed album, a signed vinyl, it's about as sick as it gets. So there was about a 2 or 3 day heads up. I did see a few folks went out there and went to that. I ended up picking mine up secondhand, and the sad part is I was just thinking about this the other day. In hindsight, it probably would have been cheaper for me to just fly out there, attend the signing, and fly my ass right back. But that wouldn't have worked too well with work and the family and such. But yeah, it's such a catch 22 when it comes to flippers and eBay and some of that shit. Like on one hand, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to buy something that is pretty limited, all things considered. I mean, I don't know how many wristbands they passed out, but they were signing for a while. I was kind of shocked. They signed for probably 4 or 5 hours, it seemed like. But on the other hand, it also sucks when there's people like myself who really want that, can't make it. And then you've got people walking in with stacks of 30 getting them signed. And literally I was like refreshing eBay and you could see before people had even like left the vicinity, they had them up on eBay with pictures of the band signing them and stuff. So I don't know, it's such a sleazy ordeal on some side of things, but I bought it. So I guess who's the fool there, but I thought that was awesome. They had not done a public signing shit with Tom since probably Untitled. I know they did one Best Buy signing for that. I think Reunion, they did some VIP signings and such. With, I think at Chicago, Lollapalooza, there was a pop-up shop where they did some signings with Skiba for deluxe stuff. But these dudes don't sign a ton. It's really tough to find a full band signed item. So I thought that was awesome. That was really, really cool. Um, I did get the One More Time new smiley tattooed, and I posted a picture of it on the Instagram, and I was so stoked for this. And I had this is kind of a crazy story. I had this plotted out for I think the day after release, or may have, yeah, I think it was a day after release. And I go to the tattoo spot with my buddy. We were both going to get it. My Blink friend in real life, who's been on the podcast, we were both going to get the new Smiley blasted, play some Blink 182, good old time. And he gets his done. I'm like, okay, this is rad. I'm getting my stencil on. And all of a sudden, the firemen come knocking on the door of the tattoo shop. It's like, excuse me, what's going on here? And they come in in a frantic fury, and they're saying, "You guys got to get out of here. You guys got to get out of here. There's a huge gas leak." And I'm like, "Oh my God." We open up the window, you can smell just the biggest gas stench I've ever smelled. And I started freaking out. I'm like, shit, I got kids. I can't be fucking blowing up, getting a Blink 182 tattoo right now. We gotta get the fuck out of here. My tattoo guy was like, "Do we gotta leave? Like for real?" And the firemen were like, "The whole block is being shut down. 2 blocks, actually. We're shutting down the block. You guys gotta get the fuck out of here right now. They're cutting off the power." So that was crazy. So on one hand, I was glad that this wasn't mid tattoo because it was close. I had the stencil on. We were getting ready to fire it up. Um, but on the other hand, I was kind of bummed because I was like, ah, shit, this was supposed to be right around the album release. It was going to be real cool, but no, plans got ruined. Did end up getting it a couple weeks down the road. I had them blast it to make it look like the marker. If you look at the front cover, it kind of looks like it's done in a big dry erase marker or something. And I had them mimic that, my tattoo guy, and it came out great. I was super stoked. So I know some folks, when they announced the new 5 arrow, were like, "Oh man, my 6 arrow tattoo is ruined. Oh, it sucks." And I'm like, "No, it's not. Just get another one. Just get another one, you cowards." I have two of the 6 arrow ones. So I had two that were quote unquote ruined. I don't give a fuck. Just add a third. It's just a body part. It's just on you forever. It'll be okay. So, anyways, if you got new Blink ink, tag me, send it to me. I love seeing these. I've seen some pretty rad ones thus far. And to me, it's just a nice little commemorative stamp on the old body to always remember the rad times around this album release and leading up to it. So I thought it turned out great. Very, very happy with it. When it comes to some of the merch, Hi, My Name is Mark released another pin. I thought for sure Scully was coming next. It was not Scully, it was Stoned Fruit. So the base is made by an artist named Burrito Breath. Has some killer art. He's designed some shirts for Hi, My Name is Mark of late, particularly that Reaper one that you saw Mark wear in the One More Time video. He did that one. That one's insane. I'm waiting to see someone get that tattooed, by the way. I've been really tempted. I've been tempted to get that on a leg, on a forearm. I already have an octopus on my rib, so it's like, okay, I probably shouldn't get another octopus, but that's fucking rad. And that dropped, sold out so quick. The artist did have a handful available on his own website, which was cool. So I hope you all were able to snag that. Thus far, I still have the complete set. So I haven't missed out on any. I know it's probably very frustrating for those who miss out. The key to success for me is be signed in and use Apple Pay. And if you have an Android, I have no clue how to help you. But for me, the Apple Pay on a lot of these limited edition drops is just so fucking quick. It's honestly a lifesaver. So snagged that. Hope you did as well. They do have another one coming this week. So word on the street is it's the Thumbs one, which was another new base that we saw out brand new on this last tour. And hope everybody has success on that one as well. From the Blink 182 merch side of things, I'm always stoked this time of year, start seeing Christmas sales, fuku boxes, fuck you boxes. I don't think those are going to happen this year. Um, Maybe we bought too much stuff throughout the year because I think traditionally the thought behind that is it's kind of leftover items that you can bundle off in one big package at a great price and kind of get some inventory out the door. So maybe we bought too much this year for the fuck you boxes. um, they did release another limited edition ornament. Those have kind of become a little staple in my house. I like those. This time of year, Christmas stuff comes out and I get a little smile on my face hanging that on the tree. And then I was really stoked to see a new version of the Skankin' Rabbit plush. I'm just going to call it Skankin' Santa. So this is one that, in hindsight, I'm actually shocked hasn't been released prior. All these Christmases we've had with Blink as a band. But yeah, this one turned out really, really rad. So at this point, there are 4 Skankin' Rabbit plush stuffed animals or toys, whatever you want to call them. We have the OG from 1999 Loser Kids. We have the kind of second iteration of that I recall getting in want to say 17 or 18. I got mine at the Vegas residency. On the last tour, this most recent tour, we had kind of the older version of Skankin' Rabbit with his gray hair. Bless his heart. That was for the VIP ticket holders. And then we've got this new Santa Claus one. So I love these. You know, I think a lot of us Blink nerds love any merch that drops, but some of these I find particularly rad and collectible. You know, I'll buy a bunny rabbit toy over a t-shirt most of the time. So yeah, I had to mention that. I thought that was really cool. Stoked to see something different out there. Okay, this one was a little bit divisive. Tom on Into the Stars started teasing an exclusive strat specific to the stars in a limited edition colorway. I actually did a YouTube video on this one because I was so stoked. A lot of people were asking me about it. So, you know, as we know, the Stratocaster Tom Signature Strat is back. It came in 4 different colors, actually the same 4 OG colors it came in 2001 through 2003-ish. And actually, I've been so tempted to pick one of those up. I haven't picked one up. I've mentioned before on the podcast, I just can't play as much anymore. And it's not even a time thing, it's my hands are fucked thing. And I think it's arthritis or early onset of arthritis, but it's not fun. I'll tell you that much. I've had to go see specialists. I've done x-rays, blood work, all types of shit. I'm on some medication that I think helps with the inflammation. But gone are the days where I can just palm mute all day and not have to pay for it. So I don't play as much guitar anymore. So I didn't pick one up, but I went to Guitar Center the other day. I think it was around Black Friday, just to kind of look around, see what they had. And they had one of those on the shelf. And I mean, it just stood out like a sore thumb, a beautiful, beautiful sore thumb. And I hadn't seen one of these in person, gosh, probably since like '02. I remember going to guitar shops back then and just wanting the Squire version. And gosh, it is just a beautiful guitar in person. The paint job, I mean, everything just sticks out as just being so well crafted and just so beautiful. And I had to ask to play it, and the dude grabbed it off the shelf. And it's funny when I run into people in my town. This has happened twice now. That guy was like, "Yeah, I really like this guitar. Like, I think Tom's back, and you know, they got a new album and stuff." And in the back of my mind, I'm like, yes, they do. If you only knew. I have a C tier podcast about this shit, buddy. I know all my Blink stuff. And then I was at a store the other day. I was wearing my Blink hoodie, and the cashier, the lady goes, "Oh, I like your Blink hoodie." She said, "I've got a Blink 182 tattoo." I was like, "Oh, what is it? What is it?" And she showed me it was like the "We Live Like Jack and Sally." I was like, "Oh, from I Miss You." She's like, "Oh, how'd you know that?" I'm just thinking, oh, honey, I've got a level C or D tier podcast on iTunes. My podcast beat Sir Paul for a day, which actually that was pretty wild and made me think, good Lord, how shitty is Sir Paul's podcast? But it's always funny when that happens to me in the wild because it's quite rare around here. I mean, I'm in Southern Indiana. I don't see a lot of Blink 182 merch around. So I perk up a little when folks actually ask me about it or it comes up in a conversation. But anyways, I got the guitar off the shelf and I was playing it, and man, it was just rad. And it really just started to put an itch, light a fire underneath my ass. I'm like, I gotta get one of these guitars. I haven't yet. Still kind of looking out for a great deal or sale. I'm pretty much sold on the Surf Green at this point. I think that's the one I want to go with. But, anyways, those 4 colors dropped. Everything I've heard thus far is that it's been a glowing success from Fender's standpoint, from Tom's standpoint. They've been blown away by the sales on these and really just how the fan base has taken it in. And so I was kind of surprised to see a limited edition release specific to the stars, but it's rad that you know A to the stars was able to land something like this, and B that Fender was cool with it. You know, I have no idea how that deal worked out or how that side of things works, but you know, it's cool for Tom's company to get a limited edition release and a unique colorway. And right away, you know, I saw it was limited to 300 units, and I was thinking these are going to sell pretty quick. I don't know if they're going to sell out instantly. It is around Christmas time. I'm assuming it's going to be more expensive than the current standard models, which is 12.99 USD. For a lot of fans, that's a big chunk of money. I mean, that's a big chunk of money for me. I don't have one. um, so I was thinking right around Christmas time, that's kind of a tall ask. It's probably going to be more expensive. Are they going to sell out? Probably. Is it going to sell out in a minute? I don't know. I probably would have taken the over on that. And then, most importantly, the colorway was unique, and it was a matte black. And when they started teasing it, some folks weren't even sure what it was. A lot of people were thinking, is this a new miniature guitar? But in the back of my mind, I'm like, there weren't any matte black ones that come to mind that Axe Heaven would make a replica of. Some people were thinking, is this the boxcar guitar? Is this one of the early Fenders? I'm like, no, it's matte black. It's not a shiny black finish. There's no stripe. Um, and so lo and behold, as we got closer to the release date, they started teasing more. And then Tom posted a photo of the full thing. I don't think he could help himself. And it was basically just a new limited edition colorway. It was matte black, black pick guard, which looked gnarly. And then what stood out to most is the volume knob was bright red. And this was a very unique and rad colorway. And I know some people were getting real pissed about it. I don't understand why, but they were basically saying, why would anybody want that? It's a money grab. It's this, it's that. And I'm like, guys, come on. Like, can't people just do cool stuff without it being a big deal? And the thing that I don't understand about the money grab argument or side of things is it's like, I mean, they just got off of a huge stadium like world tour. It's like, uh, I don't think this is a make or break deal for Tom and his livelihood. And all things considered, most products in this world and for companies are meant to make money. And on top of that, you don't have to buy it. I see arguments sometimes where people get so pissed about it. I'm like, you don't have to buy it. You think when I go to the store and the local grocery has bacon at $8, you think I get all pissed off, money grab, fucking money grab, and then the other brand has it for 8.75, the fucking money grab. You don't have to buy it. It's okay. You can pass on one if you don't want it, or you can buy a cheaper model. You can buy a Squire. You don't have to buy that one. So my take was it's fucking rad, and I loved the colorway. And I know some of the argument for folks was, well, Tom never even played that one. Well, on some side of things, I can kind of buy that. I think it would be really rad if he did play a Strat again in a video or at least one song or something on tour. Obviously, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I thought that might happen on the last tour with the sticker Strat, or his signature model, playing that once. But honestly, the nostalgia factor alone, clearly he doesn't need to and he doesn't want to. He's happy with the Starcasters. He said a long time ago he doesn't want to play Strats. They're too tiny for him, and they probably are. But yeah, I do think it'd be cool if he played it in a song or played it in a video. Um, I'm sure they probably could have sold a lot more than 300, if that were the case. But here's the thing: he didn't even play really any of his signature models. If you want to get real particular about it, the yellow one that was actually a subcaster. The surf green one is really the only Strat that he played, but it had a different neck on it. It had the punker inlay. So technically, if you want to get real shitty about it, I don't think he's really even played any of them. He might have played, I think he did play the black one, his signature model black one in a boxcar video a long time ago once. So I guess I'm a liar. But anyways, you get my point. I thought at the end of the day, if you take Tom out of the equation, if you line up all of those guitars, that's the one that I would probably go towards. I just thought it looked fucking slick, fucking gnarly. And if I had to pick any of those, take Blink out of it, if I'm just picking a Strat that looks rad to me that I want to play and play in my band or whatever, dude, honestly, like that was the most fire looking one out of any of them. So, anyways, it went up for sale. It retailed at 1,500 bucks. I was on the fence. I really wanted to, but ultimately didn't pull the trigger. And honestly, I didn't even have a chance to because by the time I opened it up and read through the details, it was gone in a flash. So, it came with a hard case. It comes with a signed COA from Tom. So I think all things considered, throw in the hard case, throw in the limited edition. I think it was well worth the 1,500 bucks. It sold out super quick. And I think the ETA on that is April. So I'm very, very stoked to see those once folks start getting them in hand. Can't wait to see those come in. And I'm happy for everybody who got one. I think it's really, really rad. And I think years down the road, it'll probably be a very nice collectible that will go up in value. Tom and his team have alluded to multiple iterations coming. So I suspect, given the success and how that went, I don't see any harm in popping out a few other colors, see how it goes. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. So keep an eye out. And that's kind of a highlight on the To the Stars side of things that I wanted to hit on. Last thing I want to hit on before I get into the one more time stuff. Actually, I have two things. I'm sorry. There was breaking news that I was able to break on the YouTube page about Tom's Red Squire. So if you look at pictures of Blink from 1992, 1993, even up through the Cheshire Cat recording sessions, Tom is holding a red Fender Squire. And for years, 25 years, no one has known what happened to that guitar. It's been a mystery. And one of my favorite things on this podcast and what I pour my heart and soul into is solving some of these Blink 182 mysteries. And this is one that I was so stoked to share. I had been sitting on this story forever, was really, really hoping to be able to bring it out in a podcast conversation. Ultimately, even up until now, I don't think that's going to happen. Believe me, if it does, we are in for a treat because it will be insane. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to early Blink insight, whew, this would be some early Blink insight. However, I did want to be able to share this story, and I did get permission to do so, under the guidelines of being anonymous. And, when you're doing whatever level of journalism on some of this stuff, there are times where one of the things that I try to make sure is I do things the right way. And when people don't want their name out there or they don't want basically a million Blink fans bothering them, that I respect that. And there's stuff that I sit on and don't release and will not unless I get told I can. And I respect that 100%. This is one of those cases. I had sat on it long enough that, I wanted to ask, okay, can I just talk about this on the YouTube page? Because it's a mystery. People are going to be stoked to hear about this. I got permission and I was able to break the story. So watch the video if you haven't. Long story short, the Squire does not exist anymore. So it was given to a friend of the band. That friend spray painted it, played it in his own band, and in an act of true punk rock fashion, smashed the fuck out of it at the end of a performance. So I know that is not the ending that we all wanted to hear. But when it comes to mysteries, I think it's rad to at least have the right answer. So that is breaking news. No one knew that. So that's something that I was super stoked to bring out. And that is a great example of something that I wanted to do on YouTube because there's a storytelling element to it and photos I could share and shit like that that I think helps paint a better picture. So that was insane. Like that's honestly just surreal. I have been obsessed with that guitar since then. And I'm going to announce a project here coming up soon. Teaser alert. Okay, last thing for reals until I get to the one more time stuff, because I'm going to dive a little bit deep into that. I got to mention my boy Matt Skiba. Okay. So I think all of us have been kind of looking forward to what Matt is going to do with Alkaline Trio. Obviously, I think he's at home, Tom's at home. things seem to be in a good place for everybody right now, which is awesome. And the Alkaline Trio camp now has Adam Willard in the band, which is cool. It's crazy how everything just comes full circle with all these revolving members, and it's truly just a big punk rock circle over there in California. It's crazy. Um, Anyways, Alkaline Trio announced a new album. I believe it's called Blood, Hair, and Eyeballs. Is that right? I think that's right. And some people were messaging me like, "What a stupid fucking title!" Blah 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 blah. Well, come to find out, his mom, who worked in the ER department, emergency department at one point, it has something to do with what they would call it. I want to say on a full moon or in the evenings or weekends or something. And basically, it was like, okay, get ready for blood, hair, and eyeballs because that's just what seems to walk through the doors during these times. So there is some meaning behind it. People, you'd be surprised at how often sometimes shit has more meaning behind it than what you think and what you immediately start to talk shit about. Anyways, they released a new song, I want to say last week, called Bad Time. And I cannot stop listening to this song. It had to grow on me a tad. The first listen, I was like, okay, I really like first couple verses. But I cannot stop listening to this song. I am so stoked for this album. They've got an upcoming tour. I'm going to try to get to that, but listen to that song if you haven't. I mean, I picked up a guitar, started learning the riffs to this, and the lyrics just kill me. He says, I really want to talk to you. Me and Bobby just did shrooms, so it's a bad time. I'm just fucking cracking up, like listening to Skiva on some of these lyrics. So check that out. Looking forward to that. I'll probably touch base on that album whenever it comes out. Do some reactions on that for sure. So, anyways, that is where we're at as far as getting caught up on recent stuff, recent happenings in Blinkland. I want to transition to the one more time stuff. Okay, we actually have a decent chunk of things to talk about. Um, to start, Blink released 2 bonus tracks. So Travis, I think, tweeted out or X'd out. I don't even know what to fucking call that app anymore. He tweeted out like, "What if the album had 2 more songs?" And my head was thinking, yeah, that would be cool. But more importantly, I'm thinking, okay, this is probably teasing a deluxe edition of some sort, maybe down the road. And my dream vision for this would be, they released the album cover that has their picture on the front, all 3 of them lined up, and it's white with the Blink 182 text. And my hope is that that gets pressed on vinyl and includes the bonus tracks. And I'll be damned, we got 2 new bonus tracks the next day. I was not emotionally prepared for that, folks. Was not expecting that, had no clue that was coming. And so right away, we get 2 brand new bonus tracks to dive into. And gosh, I was still riding the high of One More Time in general. And it was just bang, 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 like so much Blink excitement. I cannot stress enough how lucky we are in this time right now with Blink and how happy everyone is. And I haven't even mentioned yet, they announced a new tour. Like, what the fuck? This is crazy. For the young listeners, or for those of you who haven't been through this can be rare. So, as I try to stress all the time, like, honestly, take this in, enjoy it, because these are truly some rad times we are living in for sure. So, the bonus tracks drop. And the first one is Cut Me Off. And I really, really dug this song. And I love like the little melody. Cut me off. So I dug that one. And then I get to the second one, which is See You. And I was blown away by this song. Part of me is like, how did this not make the album? Now, the argument that I can take on a little bit here is I do think it's probably a little bit on the angel side of things. And this is something that's actually it's fascinating to me, referencing my conversation with Aaron Rubin. He was very cognizant, and it seemed like they were as a team, working on this album, that it doesn't need to be so far on the angel side of things. We need to really pull it in, hone in, and let's make a Blink album. We're not just going to flood it with synths. He even talked about cutting down the intros on some of them. And I think there was just a very, very cognizant effort to make sure that this sounded like Blink 182 in 2023. And I think they absolutely crushed it when it comes to the standard album here. I mean, it's killer. And that's one of the things that, as a takeaway for me, it absolutely blew my mind how cohesive it all sounds and how meticulous every detail is, every harmony. I mean, the way that they blend Mark and Tom and how they sound together, it's honestly just mind blowing. I mean, from a production standpoint, it may be the best Blink album of all time. I mean, I think when it comes to TLC, Tender Love and Care, and the thought and decision making behind every single part, every single harmony, every single verse, all the lyrics, like I mean, there's an insane amount of detail that was poured into this album, and you can hear it. It comes out clear as day. And one of the things that Aaron mentioned is he wanted to be part of making a Blink 182 album. You know, he thought that Neighborhoods and even Dogs Eating Dogs were very much Tom stuff could have been Angels, Mark stuff could have been plus 44. And believe me, I love Neighborhoods, love Dogs Eating Dogs. But he's right. I really, really think so. Now, there are moments, of course, where they're firing on all cylinders together, like Up All Night, I think is a good example of that. But if you have, say, A Heart's All Gone, to me, that could be a plus 44 song. In fact, one of my little fan fiction theories is at one point, I used to daydream that Heart's All Gone was a lead single off of a second plus 44 album called Heart's All Gone. You know, we had When Your Heart Stops Beating. That was the first single. And then we've got this one. To me, that's always sounded like just a Mark banger that could totally be a plus 44 song. You know, then you've got like an Even If She Falls. That totally could be an Angels song. You know, Love is Dangerous. That totally sounds like that could be an Angels song. So believe me, I think Aaron knows what he's talking about on this. He literally makes the sounds for both bands. So if anybody has the ability to speak on these sonically and both creatively, you know, with Tom in Angels and with Blink, really, as I said on the podcast, I don't think there's anybody else on the planet whose opinion matters more than his. And so I thought it was very interesting to hear Aaron say that, look, we need to make a Blink record and we're not just going to do stuff with synths. We're not going to do crazy long intros. You know, if we can do it with a guitar, let's do it with a guitar. And I think the record as a whole really benefited from that. And that's why, to me, I think it sounds like Blink 182 in 2023. And that's the best way to put it. That's the only way I've been able to put it into words. And I think that is probably the best compliment you can give to a band, especially one that's been around this long, is that, yo, you guys are making stuff that sounds like nothing we have ever heard before, yet still so Blink. And I thought it was cool. One of the highlights of my conversation with Aaron, you know, I asked him, when you get Tom and Mark in a room together and Travis, you know, do you just see or hear magic come together? And he said, you know, you don't necessarily see it. You know, it's not like you just magically see some, you know, new form of themselves like together creatively, like firing on all cylinders or whatever. But he said the first time they got together and started jamming, and when he started hearing some of the stuff, he was like, whoa, like this sounds like Blink. And for somebody like Aaron, who's worked with Angels for 10 years, you know, Blink going back to Dogs Eating Dogs in some capacity, along with Tom's solo projects, along with EPs and acoustic EPs and soundtracks and whatever, Aaron's ear can pick up on that so quick. So I thought that was pretty wild coming from Aaron right away. It's like, whoa, you know, as soon as you get those two together, it's going to sound like Blink, you know, whether it's a good song or not, or a Sacrificial Lamb. He said the first two songs that they wrote didn't even make the record, but it sounded like Blink. And I really, really appreciated his honesty on that. Um, you know, he did not shy away from that at all when it comes to the Angels and Airwaves sounds and kind of where they go on that side of things. And they wanted to do a complete opposite of that, you know, while still remaining true to Tom as an artist in 2023 and where all of their hearts are. So I thought that was really rad. So that's a long way of saying that I do think See You is probably a little bit more on the Angels side of things. So for those of us who love Angels and Airwaves, you're gonna love it. You know, to me, as a huge Angels and Airwaves fan, I'm a big Angels fan, but I'm not a bigger Angels fan than a Blink fan. But when you can kind of blend those worlds together and you start getting the best out of both, it's fucking killer. And one of the things that came to my mind when I was listening to it is it actually to me kind of sounded like something that could fit on Dogs Eating Dogs. And I went back and listened to Dogs Eating Dogs pretty recently, and I was actually kind of surprised at how synth heavy and it almost sounds like organs. I was just kind of surprised at how Angels-ish it sounded in hindsight. And I think it's because I'm kind of spoiled off this new album where you do have that perfect blend. And then you go back and listen to some of the other stuff, and you can see, yeah, it is kind of more in this direction, more in this direction. And as a group on this new album, they really pulled it in and pulled together. And they've all said in the past that is when Blink is at their best, of when they're all not getting their way, so to say. But they work together and they pull it back into the middle. But one of the songs that it really reminded me of is when I was young, the lyrics on See You and the way that Tom and Mark go back and forth. There's these little moments sometimes where it almost feels and sounds like Mark acts as like the second half of Tom's brain, and he finishes his sentence. It's almost like Mark is the voice inside Tom's head. No pun intended. And what I mean by that is, um, and when I was young on Dogs Eating Dogs, the example of that is Tom comes in, it's the worst damn day. And then Mark comes in, doesn't hurt that much. And there's that perfect contrast there. And that's something that, for that song in particular, I've always just loved it. They're finishing each other's sentences, and it's just a perfect duo. It's a perfect combination. You've got the high, you got the low. They're finishing their sentences. And when I heard "See You," I really was reminded of how much I appreciate that and how much I miss that. So, in the "See You" song, it happens quite a bit, but I love it where it's like, after midnight, you still want me around. And Mark comes in, and I'm always down. And then that pre chorus, like, where'd you go? I can't sleep. I never been this low. I'm in too deep. And then when Travis kicks in right there, boom, 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 da, da, do, do, da, do, boom, 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 da, da, do, do. That is some special, special shit. That is one of the moments where I get goosebumps on these new tracks, and I don't know what it is. I don't know, there's no math, science, anything behind it. It's just a feel, and it's a feel that you only get with those three going off on a song. So for me, this song just rates so high. I listen to this song all the time. When that first dropped, I swear there was a Saturday night. I was sitting there in my living room, and I think I listened to this fucking song 30 times in a row on YouTube, just over and over and over. And I mean, I just cannot say enough about how much I love See You. I dig both songs, no doubt about it. But to me, See You is one of my favorite songs from this entire new era of Blink, to be honest. So that's kind of my thoughts on the bonus songs. As far as the kind of end of the year recap on music, we're at that time of year where everybody tends to post their Spotify, top albums, top songs. I love seeing those. I don't know when it became hipster to be like, nobody gives a fuck about your end of the year stuff, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I love seeing that. I love seeing how many songs I've listened to, how many different bands, top songs, top albums. I love seeing my friends. I don't understand why that's such a stupid thing. I saw so much hate about that this year, and I'm like, really? Everybody's fucking dog and cat and cheeseburger pictures all year. You're cool with those every single day, but God forbid they post their, year-long highlights of songs they like. That's what set you over the edge. I'm like, good hell. I dig it. It shows me what you listen to, and a lot of times I find new songs and new bands that way. So yeah, post them all, share them with me. If everybody's just going to talk shit about your top annual, songs and bands you listen to, you can send them my way. I won't get mad about you. I'll appreciate them. I promise. It was no surprise to me at all, of course, that One More Time was number one, the album. Blew all the other albums away. I was kind of surprised by some of my other ones. The Heart Attack Man album was up there. Um, I had listened to a ton of Newfound Glory this past year. Driveways, that's a band I discovered pretty recently who are just killer. They were up there pretty high. When it comes to top songs, though, I was actually very, very surprised by what came in at my number one. And I think I teased this on the podcast page and I forgot to share what was number one. So here you go. I had a couple people DM me asking me about it. It was Dance With Me. And I was shocked by that. I thought for sure it would be Turpentine, Anthem 3, See You maybe, More Than You Know. Um, I was shocked that it was Dance With Me. Now, granted, it was released a little bit prior to the album dropping, but so was More Than You Know. I thought for sure I would have listened to More Than You Know more than Dance With Me, but no, the Olays got me. So I was just honestly shocked by that. Out of my top five songs, four were from that album, and one was Freak of Nature by Heart Attack Man. I love Heart Attack Man. If you have not checked them out, definitely do so. And I love the singer has a side band called Normie, who I like just as much as their main band. So it's honestly, it's so rad kind of discovering some of these bands that I've been able to discover, a lot of it through Blink. Everything is just a spider web back to Blink for me. It's honestly surreal. So because of Blink, I discovered Neck Deep, who are one of my favorite bands. Cannot wait for their new album to drop in January. Going to see them in January. And I went to a Neck Deep show a few years back and I saw Heart Attack Man open for them and just blew me away. Now I'm a huge Heart Attack Man fan, listen to them all the time. At their last show, I discovered a band called Arm's Length, who are amazing. So it's just really rad, and I love getting out and supporting some of these smaller bands and seeing folks in smaller venues and such. So yeah, it's a long way of saying I'm totally down to discover new bands and send me rad bands to check out. I always enjoy checking out new shit. I'm all over the place. Literally, I'll go from Snoop Lion to Lamb of God in a day. I'll go from fucking Weird Al to Master P in a day. So don't be shy about it. It's okay. I'll listen to whatever. Okay, let's hit on One More Time. Okay, the last we had spoken about this one on one, just me and you in your car. It was the day the album dropped, and I had so much to dive into. I just could not wait to listen to this stuff over and over and over. Believe me, I have listened to this stuff over and over and over, and I'm here to talk about it a little bit. Let's just go track by track again, and I'll just kind of hit on current thoughts. Here we are, basically 2 months post release. Anthem 3. This song to this day just blows me out of this world. And one of the rad things about that conversation with Aaron Rubin is I was very curious. Did this song earn the song title of Anthem 3? Did they make a conscious effort? We've got to make a new Anthem 3 now that we're back together. It'd be really cool. And really the story there, the lore is they started a session and Aaron names the session as the engineer, as the person behind the computer, and he named it Anthem 3, and it stuck. And he said they sent it over to Travis and Mark. They were fucking stoked, and it was basically, for the most part, made in a day, which is absurd to me. And that's something that's always funny to me when people get all shitty about, like, especially in the past, like on some of the California or Nine stuff, like they're writing songs in a day. You gotta take your time. They need to take their time on stuff. I'm like, Rock Show was written that night, right? You know, First Date was written that night, right? Here we are, Anthem 3, written in a day, right? For those of you who are songwriters or in bands, you'll know this. A lot of times, some of your best stuff just comes to you on a whim. If you're ever sitting there trying to think of stuff, sometimes that's when it's way too difficult. Not that I'm a great songwriter or anything, but anything I've ever written that I think is catchy or melodic or whatever, a lot of times it's quick. So for those of you who are creative and do this kind of thing, it should not surprise you at all that some of this stuff comes together very, very quickly. So Anthem 3, one of the things that really stood out to me is I think the lyrics are kind of underrated. They're so uplifting. And I want to read through some of these, and I hope they're not particularly wrong in this booklet. I know some are, but to me, one of the standouts, not only are the instruments just insane on this album, and the outro, like it gets to a point in the song where you think it's over and it's not, and it just takes you to a whole new level with that outro. I mean, that's something that I have not heard in a Blink song that I can recall off the top of my head right now that just exits like that. I mean, that's killer. But anyways, if you listen to the actual lyrics there, that's something that I've grown to appreciate quite a bit. So it's essentially about, really putting your foot down and deciding to make a difference in your own life. And some of the lyrics here, he says, um, we'll see rising of a new tide. We're starting up a new life. When your head is hanging too low, when your heart's about to explode, you can make it anywhere. Go. There's no fear. Get here. Give up that ghost. And that's something that when it comes to Tom, and we know about how the past few years have been difficult for him, I found this one just very, very, very uplifting. Um, when your dreams just seem like they're dead, like embalming deep in your head, when your job has gone to deep shit, if you've fallen off of that cliff, when you're clenching both of your fists, like you aimed and then you just missed, let the record show that you're fixed. Don't you give up now, just get up and resist. And it's like, man, if that doesn't make you just want to fucking change your shitty life around or run through a wall, I don't know what to tell you. It gets you amped up in a really, really good way. And one of the things that I just crack up on this song is it gets to the Mark part. And you think at the beginning, Mark is going to have like this incredibly uplifting and empowering little spot here, and it's just a somber little moment. Slows down a little bit. He says, "After you've had the time of your life, flatlined and led toward the light, you'll despair the wreckage and find." So he's talking about dying. You're dying. You're on your deathbed. You're looking back on your life, and you think his next line is going to just be something along the lines of like, you know, don't worry, everybody loves you, or everything's going to be okay. And, you did your part here on this earth. Just something incredibly positive. And the next line, no one gave a fuck that you died. It's like, oh my gosh, only Mark. That's a mark. That's a hashtag mark there where it's like no one else on this earth is putting that there except Mark, and it's perfect and it works, and it screams his kind of outlook on life and perspective sometimes. So I just think this song is insane. That outro, man, I tell you, when it comes to music, there are songs that just make you feel invincible. It's I can't even explain it to people who don't get music or don't get as into it as a lot of us probably do, where it's literally, they talk about a runner's high. I run a lot. I don't know that I feel that. But you kind of get taken to a next level when it comes to music. And it's one of those things that when I'm at a concert or when I've got my headphones on listening to this stuff, nothing else matters. Like nothing. You're so in the moment. And it's one of those things that you can't even really explain it to people who just don't get it. But this is one of those songs that when it is up loud in my ears, it's just everything. And it's just something that it's rare in this world. I don't get that on a Chumbawamba song. I don't get that on a Creed song. So for a band like this, and when you find that music that speaks to you and makes you feel that way, it's just awesome. Dance with Me. I don't feel like I need to hit on that one a ton because I did a reaction video on that. My thoughts are still the same pretty much. I love this song. Obviously, it's the number one song I've been listening to since the album dropped. Um, and I think this is one that I'll keep listening to for a long, long time. The number 3 track, Fell in Love. So this is one that a little bit of insights have come out since it dropped. Travis said that this was kind of based off his relationship with Courtney, which I thought was kind of interesting. I still think this song is super catchy. I don't find any harm in it. To me, this is kind of the sober of the album. This is kind of one of the more poppier songs, obviously, when it comes to production, and on the side of things on this album. But yeah, none of the songs on here I'm skipping actively. There are some that I go out of my way to revisit that I'll note on, but I dig this song. It's happy. I think it puts people in a good mood. Terrified. This is one that I do find myself going to pretty often. It was fascinating to learn that this was truly a new Boxcar Racer original song in 2018 that Tom was going to do with Travis. And, I think I'm probably overthinking some of it. I've mentioned on the podcast, I thought it was super important for this to be on the record. I thought it was a big statement by the band as a whole that they're over some of the petty shit in the past. And Aaron kind of brought me back down to earth and was like, yeah, if it was a bad song, it wouldn't make it. And it fit kind of the slot that it needed to on the record. And that's actually something that I hadn't thought about a ton, but he alluded to that quite a bit on kind of pieces to the puzzle of this album as a whole and making sure that the different sounds were hit on, and you kind of crossed all the check boxes and had a quite a bit of versatility on there. So I thought that was interesting. And to me, still, like I said on the first listen, I'm shocked that this sounds like Boxcar Racer straight out of the gate. To be honest, I don't know if I thought the band could do that. As far as Tom, Travis being able to recapture a sound from 2002, and I think outside of the bridge, which was changed and probably modernized, which I dig it. This could be on that Boxcar Racer album, and that's crazy to me. Like I did not think that they would be able to recapture that. In fact, I have gone so far as to say I think it's kind of unfair to even think or hope and pray that the band can recapture those sounds because Plus 44 and Boxcar Racer to me are such unique timestamps of those artists at that time. So just blown away by this one that it can even begin to sound like a Boxcar Racer song, and more importantly that it absolutely delivers full blown. So next track one more time, this is one that I don't find myself going out of my way to listen to, mostly because it just kind of bums me out just a tad. Now, I do think it's a beautiful song. I think it's a song that was needed. I think it's totally worthy of the album title. But to me, it's just kind of a slower track, and I don't want to cry driving down the street. I do the same thing with Home is Such a Lonely Place. Love that song. Beautiful song. Some of the most heartfelt lyrics that you can find in Blinkland. Um, but I don't want to be crying to go pick up my kids at daycare. More Than You Know. Okay. I thought this one would be my number one song, to be honest. Before I looked up my little Apple recap, um, I thought for sure that this would be the one. And it was very, very fascinating to hear that this one went through multiple intros per Aaron. And also, and I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but what's kind of crazy about a lot of these, most of my favorite songs on this album are ones that started, I think, over at Tom's with Tom and Aaron. And this is one of those. Dance With Me was one of those. Anthem 3 was one of those. Terrified was one of those. Turpentine, we'll get to, was one of those. So most of my favorite songs on this album started over there with them too. So to be able to get that insight from Aaron, who was there, unreal. Honestly, like still blows my mind. So this is one that has totally stood this very short test of time that we've had. This was released prior. This is one that I cannot wait to hear this live. I'm so stoked for this tour. Um, We've got far too many months to wait, but this is one that they started playing live at the end of the last tour. I'm assuming, fingers crossed, it'll still be played live, but this is just absolute fire. And I still think the lyrics on this one are just some of my favorite on the album. Honestly, I think if you take all the other lyrics into account, I still think my favorite little highlight snippet from this album is Mark's second verse here. I shook all the leaves from the tree and left you with nothing. And to me, it's such a beautifully painted picture. It's poetic. Um, and even Tom's the chorus here. I don't feel pain, but I feel more than you'd ever know. And it's like, man, I feel that way sometimes. So I think a lot of us can really relate to the lyrics on this. And I think it's just so well put as far as lyrically on this song for sure. Turn This Off. This is such a quick one that, I don't ever go out of my way to listen to that. But when you're listening to these in sequence, again, it fits that slot perfectly. When We Were Young, it's interesting. I don't go out of my way to listen to this one, but when it comes on, I find myself liking it more and more and more. There's nothing wrong with it. I like it. Great song. To me, as I mentioned on my podcast, even prior, this is one that to me sounds straight off of Tom's demos, odds and ends. It sounds exactly like where Tom was telling us he was going. Go back and listen to that album. Listen to Golden Showers and focus on the guitar and just how things sound. This to me, it just sounds exactly where Tom told us he was going with Blink in 2015, 2016. I think this is one that will probably grow on me a little bit long term. Edging, this was really wild to hear on the interview that it kind of came up a little bit later in the recording process, wasn't even fully done, and the label was like, "That's the one." And I thought that was crazy. You wonder if who's listening knows what they're talking about. Was it on a whim? What did they like about it? And they were like, that's the one, finish it. And they finished it, and the rest is history. Still love this song. It's not one that's been played out to me by any means at all. You Don't Know What You've Got. This is one I listen to pretty often. I really love this song. Somber Mark song. And I think the lyrics there, man, just like that second verse, another day in the life, you can't look me in the eye. There's nothing left you could say. And the way he just rattles off that, it wouldn't help anyway. This poison skin you can't touch, go on without me, my love. Like, no kiss to send you away, it wouldn't help anyway. Like, god damn, if those lyrics don't fucking crush you, knowing what Mark just went through, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That is such a catchy hook when it comes to the chorus and those lyrics. I mean, just so personal, so deep. My guess is that that's probably a pretty tough song for Mark and Sky to listen to. Just hits you right in the gut. Blink Wave. So this is kind of a to me, it's like a new age kind of experimental Blink is what this one sounds like. I don't find myself going out of my way to listen to this one, but again, I don't skip it when it comes on. I think this is one that it's almost like the fighting the gravity slot for me. This is one that's a little bit more on the experimental side of things. Clearly back half of the album side of things, but it's rad and it's groovy. So, I mean, I'll give it that. Bad News. This is one that I think is like quintessential Mark, like take off your pants and jacket vibe song. I mean, to me, this is just old school. And when I say old school, I'm talking middle old school. So like 99 through '01, essentially, Enema Takeoff era, when most folks listening were introduced to the band or really got heavy into them. I think to me, this is just such a fun song. And what's interesting is the lyrics are not. The lyrics are, it's an anti love song. You have all these love songs, and it's fascinating that this is basically like a breakup song. It's the anti love song. I need to pick Mark's brain on some of these. I'm curious how some of these ideas were born. Hurt. So this is the one that Aaron himself said he was shocked made the album because he was saying it kind of sounded like half a song. And this is definitely on the kind of Tom experimental Angels and Airwaves side of things. As a standalone, if this was a Blink EP or if this was just a handful of songs being released, this is one that I don't think makes the cut. But when you're laying out and starting to form a full album and you're putting in, all different sounds and song lengths and vibes and all that stuff, I think it fits here. And so to give Tom kind of that little interlude, kind of Angels vibes, and then rolling into Turpentine, it works as far as sequencing goes for sure. Now, Turpentine, whatever the fuck you want to call it, Tom calls it both within the same damn song, so don't yell at me. This is one that honestly I'm still just amazed by. And I just posted a clip of Aaron talking about it, a little excerpt on the YouTube page. Um, this is one that Aaron said he did change a little bit, at least as far as some recommendations go. He didn't think that you could differentiate some of the verses and choruses and post choruses and such. It went through some tweaks. And this is where I would just love to hear these different versions of these songs. I would love to. This is another one that started with Aaron and Tom, which is fascinating to me because I think some of these early songs from the recording sessions are just some of my all-time favorites for sure. But Turpentine, I think this is another one lyrically like Anthem 3 that is just so empowering and uplifting. Yes, there's some juvenile aspects to some of the lyrics, but I think it kind of plays into the song as a whole. You know, Turpentine, you're getting a deep cleanse of yourself is kind of the theme, or at least how I interpret it. Um, but when that kicks in, you know, my arms I've raised again, and this just like "See You" when I was talking about those drums kicking in and the bass and guitar and everything just kind of syncing perfectly to the point of where it gives you goosebumps. This is the other example on the album that damn near gives me goosebumps every single time. My arms I've raised again, and then when the drums kick in, da do 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 da do 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 do. You know, today I don't feel better. Do 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 da do do do. That's magic. That's the magic right there of these three together firing on all cylinders. It's little moments like that. You just know it when you hear it. And the way Tom, you know, better, like the way he just rings that out, is just killer. I have no path within. Don't know if I'll get better. I think a lot of people can relate to that. You know, you feel that all the time. I know in my life, I feel so fucking stressed sometimes. I feel this way far more than I probably should. So, you know, some of these songs like the anthem and this one, I mean, Tom's lyrics, they speak to me for sure. Um, my own mind's unclean, can't taste anything. And then this part, what if I'm not like the others? A broken man, a Frankenstein. So, this is another great example for those of you songwriters, creators, whatever. This is a great example of a fucking artist painting a picture, you know, being creative. He's not saying here, what if I'm not like the others? What if I'm really hurt and stuff? What if I'm not like the others? What if I've got a lot of pain and stuff? What if I'm not like the others? A broken man, a Frankenstein paints the picture for you. That's next level shit. A lot of people can't do that. Tom says on tour, you can't do what we do. He's not wrong. You know, to have something that catchy, that powerful with lyrics like that. This is another example on this album, along with the shook all the leaves from the tree and left you with nothing, of where it's just so fucking perfect. Um, you know, what if my heart won't recover? I think basically everybody can relate to that. We've all been through crazy shit, breakups, deaths, you know, shitty times, lost jobs, injured, you know, whatever. Where it's like you don't know if you're going to be able to get through this. And then the beauty of it is, you know, finding that path and working your way through it. You know, I'll clean myself with turpentine. Um, you know, basically saying like, if it doesn't work out, I'll try again. Like I'll give myself that deep clean, the turpentine, start back over. You know, it's okay. And then when he goes into that quick part, like working at the factory, stick the veins of nicotine, wash yourself with turpentine. To me, that's kind of just saying like, as an everyday person or whatever, like just the struggles of everyday life, whether it's your job working at the factory, whether it's the you know nicotine or drugs or you know whatever. Um, whatever your challenges are, or whatever you're dealing with or whatever, like you can start over. I don't know. That's my kind of loose interpretation of it, I guess. Um, and then he comes in, I feel like I'll cave in. I'm anxious, I am weathered. And I just love that line. You know, it's not tired, it's not I'm old, it's not, you know, I've been through this so many times. It's I'm weathered. like a staircase out in the rain or something, who's just been through a lot of shit and a lot of different shit throughout the years. It's just beautiful the way he puts this. I've lost my way again. I know there ain't no treasure. And so to me, the way that I take that from Tom's perspective is, losing his way, either if it's with family side of things or Blink or band or, whatever. He's lost his way. I know there ain't no treasure. And to me, that's almost like he tried finding treasure on the other side. And now he realizes that it's not there. To me, it's kind of similar to like the grass is greener, where maybe you go over there and it's not, the grass isn't greener on the other side, and now you know that. But unfortunately, sometimes to know that and to understand that, you have to take that leap and you have to try that. So um the lyrics on this one, I mean, I think are just top notch as far as the verses go. And then for it to switch gears like it does into that bridge with Mark, sharks smell the blood in the water, we're all just lambs to the slaughter. Like, holy shit, it's crazy. That is for sure one of my favorite songs from this album, no doubt about it. Fuckface. This is, again, it's one that's just so quick. It's tough to go out of your way to like click on that one. It's similar to in the past. I don't go out of my way to listen to Bohemian Rhapsody or Built This Pool or anything like that. But it works. And then you get into Other Side. This is one that I found myself listening to quite a bit more. And again, I love the lyrics on this. Obviously, very personal to Mark, and the passing of his bass tech Robert, who I like to think is just looking down, smiling, tipping off a cup of coffee, and just stoked for what's happening in Blinkland right now. So um, that's one that is raising, as far as like it's rising up on the ladder of songs I'm listening to, more regularly. The last track, Childhood. I still don't listen to this one a ton. To me, it's a perfect closer, but if I'm not listening to the album in proper sequence, I don't go out of my way to listen to it. It's fine. I like it. I think it's a vibe like we've never gotten with Blink before. But it's not something that I find myself going out of the way, as a single track or whatever. So, anyways, that is kind of my current feeling on the album. Still in rotation, still listening to it. I think it's an amazing album. I'm still hesitant to judge it as far as like compared to other releases. I still think I need more time with it, but I will say I texted this to my Blink friend in real life a couple weeks back. I said, dude, this might be the best Blink album of all time. I could see it taking that at some point. Now, it's very, very tough. Of course, people are going to yell at me. It's very, very tough, nostalgic wise and chart wise and sales wise and what it did for the band. It's going to be impossible to surpass Enema of the State if that's what you're judging it on. Even the same thing when you get into Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, when you get into Untitled. My gut says at this point in time, I think I like it more than California. I think I like it more than Deluxe. It's really tough. I think I like it better than Neighborhoods. I think I like it better than Nine. I think overall, as far as songwriting goes, and production and everything, I think I like it better than Cheshire Cat. Is it better than some of the others? It's subjective. It all depends on what you're measuring by. But at the end of the day, because I hate to even get into mere speculation based on that, because each of these albums, they all just hold such a special place in your heart, and they all take you back to a certain point in time. And so to me, it's kind of unfair to even try to judge them or whatever, because if you look at this album right now, I've listened to this a million more times than Take Off Your Pants and Jacket this year, and a million more times than Cheshire Cat and California and Neighborhood. So yeah, you have to take time and timestamps into the equation, and where you are in life and when it was released and all of that stuff. But I will say, end of the day, this is definitely an incredible album. I think when it comes to the production and all of the attention to detail and ensuring there is cohesiveness, I think what they did and were able to do in 2023, given the history, given the split off into Angels and Airwaves and Plus 44 and Boxcar and all the shit that's happened in between, I think it's just insane what they were able to do and how they were able to make it sound so cohesive and so Blink 182 in 2023 and so fresh. So my hat is off to them. As far as how it compares all time to the others, I don't know. I don't want to answer that yet. For nostalgic reasons, I don't know if it'll ever surpass Toy Page, Enema, some of the others, but these songs are insane. Like, I would have to really, really look long and hard, side by side, track by track, and kind of figure out which song I prefer. But, the thing is, if you would have asked me 20 years ago, do I prefer What's My Age Again versus Fell in Love, or, wherever that lines up on the track list? Like, yeah, I probably would have went with kind of the more simple pop punk songs back then, but now it's a lot more progressive, a lot deeper lyrically on some of this stuff. So it's tough. I could probably ramble on forever. Maybe I just need to do a track by track, side by side comparison episode on these or something. But I think ultimately the most important thing is that these dudes delivered. And, I had very high expectations because I, it's no secret. I loved the Skiba era. Like, loved it. Loved California. I thought Deluxe was insane. I need to go back and really listen to those a bunch. I don't know if I'm alone here, but one of the things that's kind of difficult for me is whenever Blink transitions eras, members in and out, there's a part of me that's kind of sad to go back and listen to some of the old stuff. So this happened when California dropped and when Skiba was in the band. I kind of was sad to go back and listen to Untitled or Toy Page. I kind of like to be in the moment. And so when Skiba was in the band, like, man, I was so focused on current Blink and supporting them and being stoked for the new music. And now that Skeeb is not in the band and we've got Tom back, I haven't listened to California and Deluxe a ton. I haven't listened to Nine because there's part of me that's like, fuck, I love Nine. Like, that's such an awesome time. And I have great memories from that time period. So I was very, very worried, to be honest, that what if I like Nine's like shit, Nine slaps to me. Like, what if I like Nine stuff way better than the new stuff they're making with Tom? And for those of you who don't like Angels and Airwaves or don't like that side of things and that sound inside of things, you might have been a little bit worried too. Because I know a lot of fans out there really like some of the fast punk that they went back to, and really, that clean pop punk sound they went to with the California album. um, Deluxe was a little bit darker, and then Nine, we still saw some of that, but getting a little bit more experimental. It's really felt like they were just starting to find their home and their sound, and Skiba was getting more comfortable. So, yeah, be honest, I didn't know what to expect out of this album. I really didn't. And we got Edging, and I was like, okay, this is catchy, great song. Like, I dig it. Do I like it more than First Time? I don't know. Do I like it more than Heaven? I don't know. It's gonna grow on me a little bit. Um, but I think at the end of the day, it's just kind of unfair to even try to go that route and compare this stuff. I think ultimately what I've tried to hone in on is just being so appreciative and stoked for what's going on right now and happy for the dudes. So the fact that they put out a new album and are back together, that was step one. That was a win in and of itself. But for it to be amazing and this amazing, man, it fucking blew me away. And I'm just so stoked, so happy for the band and all of us. Truly a special time in Blink 182 land, no doubt about it. So that's my end of the year recap. This was a long one. I need a drink of water. Um, but yeah, this will be the final episode of the year. Once again, just thank you all so much for your support. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a review. And if you want to support the podcast, look in the episode description and click on the link there to head towards the Twitch tip jar, and I will drink a nice IPA on your behalf. So, anyways, new tour next year. Hopefully we end up getting maybe a deluxe edition of this. Couple new tracks or something prior to the tour launching would be my guess, my hope, because we've got some time between now and then for sure. So I'm hoping that they've got some more stuff laying around or work on some new stuff. But yeah, anyways, season 4, that's a wrap of the 182 News podcast. and hopeful to be back in January. We'll see how it goes. All right, enjoyed it. Thanks all.